Hello everybody, we are back yet with another session 3 of Azure AI Cohort. The last two sessions were really special and taken by Aditya sir and Ajay sir for us. And continuing today, I would like to hand over the stage to our two prestigious speakers. Taking Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kenny. Thanks for the introduction. Hi, everyone. Very good evening. I know everyone is already on a weekend mood, but I think this should be a great start for your weekend. So, yeah, today is our day three in our eight series of Azure AI cohort. And let me just, before we start your day three, let me just give you a walkthrough on what happened in day one and day two. On day one, we introduced what AI is in basic layman terms and we saw different types of AI, why is it used, and we also gave an assignment to understand what kind of AI you're using in your day-to-day life. And there are a lot of submissions on that. Thanks for all those who submitted it. And on day two, we understood the basics again. We also had a hands-on on how to use the existing models, how to train the model, how to test the model, and all that stuff. You have missed if you in case if you have missed watching day one and day two, please take some time after this session and go and watch day one and day two. And as part of day two, we also gave a quick introduction of Python. So that you can understand the code base that we are explaining. So you may feel little confused or overwhelmed when you are watching day three if you haven't watched day one and day two. Don't worry, just go with free mind, watch with day three, and once that is done, after once you watch day two and day one, you will get more clarity, right? So that's all what about day one and day two. And coming to the assignments of day one and day two, we are still evaluating those assignments, and we'll announce the winners for day one and day two assignments by tomorrow evening. So wait for that, keep watching for that. And yeah, let's begin for the today's session. Before that, let me introduce myself. I'm Aditya Saladi. I'm a software engineer at Microsoft. Started my career at a startup called Technovert, then moved to Grabon, and then worked at Unternehmertum in Germany, and came back to India and joined Microsoft. Other than work, big foodie, and I love to travel whenever I get some personal time. Travel 11 countries so far, and all those updates I usually share on my Instagram handle called code.with.adi. With the same name, I also have a YouTube channel where I share all the Telugu tech content. If you are interested, do follow on Instagram and subscribe on YouTube. Over to you, Ajay.
Cool. Thank you, Aditya. Hope you're going to a new country again in the next few months, right? I saw you
Yeah,
collecting passport uh,
yeah,
today,
yeah.
but yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so hey everyone, I'm Ajay. I'm a principal software engineer at Microsoft. I started my career in 2009. I was a 2009 passed out from Anna University. I did an IEEE paper on cloud. Funnily enough, like after 15, 16 years, I'm still working on cloud and the other side of cloud, building the cloud. Right. I started with Wipro Technologies as a software engineer, primarily a Java developer. Over a course of last 15, 16 years, I've worked with multiple companies. I worked with Goldman Sachs. I worked with JP Morgan Chase. In 2017, I started contributing to the developer community. So I started a channel called Tech Primers. As a part of it, I used to go to meetups, give various sessions. In 2020, I was a AWS community builder. I was continuously there for 2 years. Then I joined Oracle Cloud. So I was leading the block storage control plane team there. And this year in January, I joined Microsoft in the Azure product group. So that's my career timeline. Coming to my personal background, I don't have any hobbies as such, except from learning stuff, anything which is new. If I don't learn anything new, I just don't go to sleep. So I just try to keep myself up to date with technology. So if you guys are interested in technology stuff, do head to Tech Primers in YouTube. So if you're interested, you can subscribe as well. So coming to today's session, like Aditya mentioned, there are a lot of resources which are already there, which we are publishing via GitHub. So if you go to github.com/tech handbooks slash Azure AI cohort, you can look at the content which we are presenting, the day one, day two content. And once the session is done, we will be enabling the day three content as well. There are a lot of discussions happening in the tech handbooks org again. So if you have any queries, if you guys want to talk to us offline anytime, you can just post any questions in the discussions forum as well. Like Aditya said, there are a lot of assignments. If you have seen the day one and day two, there are assignments. And again, there are a lot of goodies to be won. So we'll announce that tomorrow, the winners for the day one and day two. If you have missed it out, So do check out today's session and then try to do these assignments and submit them, right, to get nominated. Finally, a bonus thing. So whoever is consistent throughout the sessions and the assignments, we will pick two top two talent, and then we will give 1 hour mentorship opportunity for from both of us, right? I mean, you will get to talk to both of us, right? That's a bonus which we are providing from our end. Right now, coming to today's topic, it's about data preparation and processing, right? So the agenda goes something like this, right? So in our day-to-day life, we use a lot of data. So we will look at the importance of data, why that particular data is important, and how data has evolved in the last few years. We will look at feature engineering, how we can leverage feature engineering to fine-tune this data. We will also look at a hands-on program with data, how you can cleanse data and filter out a lot of huge data sets into a narrowed down use case. We will do a hands-on activity on that. And finally, we will touch upon Azure AI services. So the whole session is about Azure AI cohort, right? So we wanted to give basics, and then we wanted to start about Azure. So we will do start the Azure AI services basics, and from the next sessions, we will be definitely doing all the hands-on activities using the Azure AI services. So we will start off with the fundamentals in the end of this today's session, right? So that's the agenda for today. And again, if you have any questions, do post it in the comment section below. So we have two people. So if let's say I'm presenting, Aditya will take care of answering the questions. If Aditya is taking something, I will be able to respond you back in the comment section. So feel free to post any comments in the comment section or the chat section. Now coming to the data, so a few years ago, if you had seen, oil was a very critical resource, right? So my father used to work in the oil industry, so he used to say oil is like gold, right? I mean, that is the most precious thing in the world, right? But in the current market, data is the new oil, right? That's what everybody talks about. The reason for that is a lot of things changed over a period of time, and everybody is connected to the internet, right? Right, it's not just like a quote, but then it has proved that in the recent times. If you look at COVID, most of us were there in the COVID period. In fact, like all of us who are going through the session would have been in the COVID period, and then you would have seen what we did during COVID, right? Everybody was glued to the internet. We were looking at the data on how many people got infected with COVID, which cities were infected, which streets were infected, in fact, right? And how you have to like follow different practices, right? And COVID showed that data is the real deal, because if let's say the data is not up to date, right, you cannot like track who had COVID, and then how will you know that you have to be like isolating yourself from others and things like that, right? So that is where data became so valuable for us, and that was a classic example where none of it was important, right, including your oil, right? It was not important. The primary thing which people were glued to is the data aspect of things, where people are just looking at how many people got affected, am I safe, am I in the safe zone, etc., etc., right? So that's a classic example of how data is changing and how data is becoming more valuable, right? Now coming to the aspects of data, so what are the different things we can look at from a data's perspective? We say data, but then why is it like relevant for the AIML project, right? Now anything on the artificial intelligence and machine learning models, data is the foundation for all these. So all these models, parameters are all created based on the data sets. You could be seeing different data models. You will see that they say 90 billion parameters, 16 billion parameters. These are different data sets which are tied up or which are trained on that particular model, right? So the data model gets trained with those particular those many number of data sets, and that's how the model has been like valued or validated against, right? So the different phases that could, I'm just listing like few of them, five different data specific aspects. For example, the first one is sensing, right? Sensing refers to the process of identifying the data source. So let's say I want to build a product, or I want to build a AI model. I have to first identify the data source for it, right? So it involves evaluating the quality of the data, so you can better understand whether it is valuable or not, right? So there are different questions which comes to your mind, like, is the data accurate, is the data recent, is it up to date, is it complete data set, is it even valid, can it be trusted, right? All these data sources can be coming from databases, spreadsheets, CRM systems, or any other softwares, right? All these can be sourced from different stages. right? And again, it could be internal data, external data, right? Or there could be some algorithms, right? There could be set of rules which can automate the process of evaluating the accuracy of the data and also completion before it is being used, right? All these we can do as a part of sensing. So whenever we get a data, we do all these, and this is called as sensing, right? The next one is the collection. So once we have identified the data source, right, we have a potential data source which must be collected, right? So the data collection can be completed through a manual or an automated process. If let's say you are collecting it via a REST API, you can just write a REST API which can download all these data, right? That being said, it is generally isn't feasible to do manual collection of data because the data set could be huge in terms of gigabytes. That's why I said you can have an automated process to just automatically pull this data, transfer it from the source to your destination, right? And that's why a lot of data scientists use programming languages to write software to automate the whole entire data collection process as well, right? um, so that's what data collection is all about. Wrangling is nothing but a set of process which is defined to transform your raw data into something which is usable. For example, if I let's say I get a mixture of comma separated value with a text value, I want to convert that into a usable format, right? That's when we do a wrangling, right? There are different processes which can identify the quality of the data, right? Again, we do a lot of cleaning and structure the data for more analysis in the future, right? We use various algorithms, various programming languages. Again, there are languages like R or Python or SQL which you can use to do these, right? And again, there are a lot of tools like OpenRefine, Data Wrangler, and CSV Kit, which are used for wrangling the data, right? Once the data is clean, we have that in the specific format, we now need to do analysis on that particular data, right? So this data is still raw, right? It is transformed into some usable format, but it is still raw, right? So depending on that specific challenge which we are working on, right, your data set projects may seek some address to analyze these let's say diagnostic information, or maybe like predictive information which we want to get out of that, right? So typically your data analysis begins with some form of automation, right? Especially when the data sets are especially large. Again, you have to bring in automation, right? After the automation process has been completed, data analysts use their expertise to glean the additional insights. For example, again, they use statistical models. Some of the visualization models include Tableau or Microsoft Power BI, right, or even Google Charts, right? So people use these tools to do data analysis on these data, right? And finally, this data gets stored, right? Once the data is analyzed, we need to store them somewhere, right? We can leverage cloud-based storage accounts or solutions, or sometimes if you are working in bigger organizations which have on-prem servers, we can store them as well there, right? So these are different ways in which you can use the data, go through a different type of processes, right? Sensing, collection of data, wrangling data, then analyzing it, and then finally storing that data, right? So this is where data comes into picture. Now once you have collected the data, now what do we do, right? So there is a concept of feature engineering. So feature engineering is nothing but a process using a domain knowledge to extract the features out of the raw data, right? You had clean data, now you have the data ready, now you need to use that to come up with a data model, right? I mean, how do we do that now, right? So that is where you need domain expertise, and feature engineering helps us in narrowing down so that it can efficiently create the model accuracy, and also it can have efficient ways of reducing the complexity of the model, right? So feature engineering helps in three things: improving the model accuracy. So well engineered features can significantly be enhancing the predictive power of the models. So if you have model accuracy which is high, so your predictability of your particular model will be very high. Same way efficiency. So if you are creating a complex model, it could take more time to give you results, so we need to concentrate on the efficiency of the algorithm again, or the model. And finally, the interpretability of the model. So if you have good features baked into your models, right, again, as a part of feature engineering, it will help you create good feature models which people can easily understand and interpret, right? So that it's not that complex. So those are the reasons why we will use feature engineering while creating a data model, or while using data sets or working with data sets. There are different techniques when you're using feature engineering, right? I've just listed three of them here, right? Construction, selection, and normalization. Similar to how you did with respect to data, now when you're working on a feature, you will have to go through these three, right? So construction is basically creation of a new feature from an existing data, such as for example converting dates to weekdays or weekends, or creating an age category, right? So that's a classic example of how you construct your feature, right, for a particular from a particular data set. Now coming to the selection, again identifying and selecting most relevant features for your model, that is what selection is all about. So this can involve again statistical test or correlation analysis, or maybe domain expertise, right? So that is what happens in the feature selection area, right? So in the collection, in the construction, we understood and converted data from categorizing them, and in the selection we identified and the most relevant features for the model, right? Using analysis or maybe domain expertise, we have selected that data. And finally we normalize the features, right, ensuring the features on a or on a similar scale, so that we don't prevent a single feature from disproportionately influencing the whole model, right? So one common thing which you would have seen while creating a model is one particular input influencing the whole entire model, right? So we don't want to get into a stage where few subset of the data like influences the entire model, right? So we need to normalize the whole data set, otherwise our model can misinterpret things in a different way, right? So that's why we need these techniques to build the data model. I'll explain this maybe with an example of delivery, right? I don't know how many of you know delivery, right? So delivery is a Indian startup. Again, it's one of the largest logistics and supply chain company in India. It was founded only in 2011, but it provides a wide range of services, including your delivery, your express mail, your third-party logistics. It can also do supply chain management, and also it does freight forwarding, right? So they work with different e-commerce startups, e-commerce companies. If you have worked with, if you have used any small startups or used any Instagram pages, you would see that the orders are getting delivered via delivery, right? So delivery is a courier platform. They do third-party logistics, like I said, right? Similar to what Flipkart has with eCart, right? So delivery is something similar, but it is on a bigger scale. You would have seen this image, right? Look at the data center or a data warehouse, right? So that's where, and again, they are based out of Delhi. That's where they started from, but now they are in multiple cities, right? Now, how is it relevant for our use case, right? So if you look at this particular segment of the industry, right, data is very crucial for delivery because it enables them to optimize their operations, improve their delivery accuracy, and it can do a lot of customer satisfaction improvement based on data, right? Some of them, let me go through some of their use cases, right, where data can be very helpful. Let's say for example route optimization, right? By analyzing historical data of the delivery routes and the traffic patterns and the delivery times, delivery can now optimize the routes and can reduce the delivery time and also the fuel consumption. Let's say they know that during this particular period of time traffic is going to be more, so delivery knows that I can optimize my delivery route, and then I can have a different delivery time, right, for that particular area. Same way demand forecasting, right? Delivery uses predictive analytics to forecast the demand for various services. It also helps in better inventory management because their inventory are going to be huge. So demand forecasting helps them in reducing the chances of maybe overstocking or maybe stockouts, right? So that is where it will help delivery. The other thing is real-time decision making. With real-time data on the shipments, right, the vehicle locations where the vehicles are, right, and the delivery status of these vehicles, delivery can now make informed decisions on the fly, right, using the data, right? That's again a very good place where data is primarily used. The other thing is the customer insights. By analyzing the customer data, delivery can now gain insights on the customer preferences and the behavior, so they can easily identify and personalize services specific to the customer and also improve customer satisfaction based on that, right? The other thing is operational efficiency, right? Data analytics helps in identifying inefficiency in their operations. If let's say a delivery is taking longer, right, they can identify some bottlenecks in the whole supply chain process, and then they can improve their whole end-to-end thing. Like that, there are tons of places where delivery is using data, and it is very crucial for them. I just covered a few of it. When you are creating a data model, again, like imagine the company which is going to use the data model, or a product which is going to use the data model which you create, right? So you know the importance of how crucial the data is. So you have to follow all these processes to make sure that the data is clean and safe, right? um, so you can ask me like how do I know that how much data I need, right, Ajay? I mean, so I was talking to a friend of mine, so I was telling him, he was asking me how to create an AI model, so I told him that you need to have large amount of data, right? So I said, yeah, you have to collect the data. So he said that he will use a data model to figure out how much data he needs, right? So that's a classic example of how you can use a AI model to come up with a data model, right, for your own use cases. um, with that, I think the final thing I want to just before we go into the hands-on part, I want to just cover all these things whatever we talked about, the data and the cleaning and feature engineering. All these can be done with different tools. Most of these tools are used in day-to-day life in our space. For example, if you had attended the day one or day two session, we use scikit learn. That is one example. That's a library. There's also pandas library which you can use. There is also feature tools which we can use for running the infrastructure. For processing these large data sets, you can use Azure Databricks or Apache Spark or maybe Hadoop. Right. Same way for plotting these in the real-time use case, you can use Matplotlib or maybe Seaborn for it. Right. So these are different tools which you will be using and working with the data set. Right. Now coming to the hands-on part, I think I'll hand it over to Aditya. Now that you know the importance of data, make sure that you understand why these are done, and then carefully choose your data set, because your data set chooses the way your model behaves, right? Yeah. With that, I'll just hand it over to Aditya to walk over with a hands-on example of what we just discussed till now.
Yep. Thanks, Ajay. So, hey everyone. So now we are going to play with some data. As Ajay just mentioned, the first part to do is see where we need to find the data, understand it, and then clean up so that the model can consume it, right? So, what example can we take? Maybe let me just quickly take an example of Titanic, right? So if you remember the Titanic movie, we just saw a poster from the hero. Who is the hero? Ajay, I forgot. I always forget his
Jack,
name.
no, his name
Jack,
was Jack, but then this guy, right?
Leonardo, something, something. I forgot. I always forget his name.
Leonardo DiCaprio. Yeah.
Yeah, that guy. So, so if we have the data available in Kaggle, Kaggle is a platform for solving data science problems, right? So let me just quickly show how to use Kaggle. Maybe we'll start with that.
Sure.
Let me know once you can see the screen. Okay, it's going to
Yep,
this mode.
we can see
Okay,
it.
you can see it, right? So let me just close this. So I'll just say Kaggle for Titanic data. Okay, so just go to Bing and search for Kaggle for Titanic data, Titanic data Kaggle something, and you'll find this Titanic data set. And once you log in, you will be able to download this data. Okay, so if you see, it will you have a video about the challenge, what is the challenge about, and data is here. So we have two sets of data. One is train.csv and the other one is test.csv. If you remember the last session in class 2, we explained how a training data set is used and how the testing data set is used. In a real-time scenario, what we usually do is if we have 100 records, 20% of the records will be used for testing and 80% of the records will be used for training purpose. So instead of we doing that, the Kaggle itself is providing us the proper training data set, so we can use this whole CSV file uh, for just training and this CSV file for testing purpose, right? In this case, the data is a CSV file. But say if there is a case where we are doing something on your WhatsApp messages, right? Now you want to build some model on top of your WhatsApp messages, then the data will be in a format three formats mainly, or four formats maybe. One is text, right? It can be .txt files of different messages. It can be audio files, right? MP4 files maybe. It can be video files, right? And it can also have some images, right? So there can be four types of data. So that's a kind of a complicated data. Right now I'm not focusing on text or like images or video or anything. We will surely learn that going forward in the next 6 sessions, right? But to make it very simple for the first session on machine learning, so we are going with a simple plain CSV file, nothing but an Excel file, right? So using this Excel data, we are going to train, or not train. Today is just for cleaning the data. We'll see what kind of data we have, like maybe the list of passengers. Let's see what is there inside it, right? So you need to actually log in, and once you log in, you need to sign up for this competition. So once you sign up for the competition, you will be able to download the file. So I have downloaded it already in my machine. So let me just bring that up. So once you download it, you will get a file called Titanic zip. So I've extracted it. So in the Titanic zip extract, I can see three files. So one is the Python file. I'm not going to open this for now. So the other one is the test data set, and then the train data set, and then the gender submission. So let me first go with the train data set, right? Let me just open this in the Excel sheet. If you open this data, you see these data, right? Passenger, we have one, two, three, four, a list of passengers. Let's see how many passengers we have. Yeah, we have close to 892 records. Yeah, 891, sorry, 891. The first one is the header. So we have 891 records, right? In the training data set. And we have another property called as survived, which is 0 or 1. I think 0 stands for dead and 1 stands for survived, live, right? And then class, which class he booked, third class, first class, or whatever. And then the name of the person, right? And the gender, whether the person is a male or a female, right? And then a age, right? And SIP, SP, huh? So SIP stands for. This is little interesting. So when I was actually going through this data set today morning, when I saw this word for the first time, I wasn't able to understand. But this actually stands for, SIP stands for siblings and SP stands for spouse, right? So if that person have like one sibling and one spouse, then the count would be two. If the person have only one sibling and zero spouse, then the count would be one. It's a combination of sibling and spouse, right? Parch, I don't remember. This is the ticket number. Oh yeah, Parch I remember. Sorry. So Parch again, this is a little confusing term. So Parch stands for parent and child. PAR is parent and CH is child, right? So the combination of parent and child is Parch, right? So if you want to count the family count of this person, it would be like SIBSP plus Parch, which is equal to one plus zero, which is one, right? So that's how you can count the family members here, right? And then this is a ticket number and the fare that he paid when booking the ticket. Why do we need this? Maybe see, I'm not sure what happened back then, but now at least even if if you and your friend are flying in the same flight, you pay maybe 5,000, your friend pays like 7,000 because of the date of booking, right? So maybe there might be differences of fare uh, based on multiple factors. We don't know. They have provided this data as well. And then the cabin, right? They don't have the details of a lot of people. Maybe if you look, I'm not sure. Maybe people who are dead, they weren't able to figure out which cabin they are from. I don't know the reason, but a lot of the cabin records are null, right? And this is embarked. I don't remember. If I'll try to recollect and tell you what this embarked is. Yeah, but yeah, this is the data set. You find the similar data set for test also, right? So the same properties, but here in the test we just have close to 419 records, right? So this is for testing purpose, right? So what can we do? Like what problem statement can we think of for this data set? Maybe one thing we can think: can we guess whether the person is alive or dead based on multiple factors, like maybe based on a combination of age, the coach, maybe it's first class, second class, or third class, and gender? Can this combination together yield the result of whether the person is survived or not? Right? Maybe that can be one problem. What you can do is you can say in the training set, you can clearly say uh, you can make a x-axis and y-axis in a graph, right? So on x-axis you can say fit in all these properties like name, not name doesn't matter, I guess. Maybe sex, age, maybe the class, right? Which class he is in. A combination can be an x class, and the y class could be the result, which is whether the person survived or not, right? So based on that, we can train the model and train it using maybe some supervised learning model. Because why supervised? Because we already have the data here, so we can just use some supervised model, like maybe a random forest algorithm or something. And once we train this model, we can will fit that model into that, and once that is done, we can test based on our test data and see how like what is the percentage of like positive responses, right? Accuracy or whatever we call, right? So we can do that. That's one problem statement that I can think of, right? But now in today's session, we are not going to solve that problem, but instead we'll see how we can make this data more clean, right? Why do we need to clean our data? Two reasons. One is so if you train the model with duplicate data, or like say if there is a person called Aditya, right? So if the same, because this we never know how this data is prepared, where this data is captured from. So there are high chances that we can have duplicate records in this, right? And there are high chances that there can be few fields, like maybe see this here, the age of this person is not known. If you are taking in the x-axis, if you are considering age, the whole model will go for a toss because we are training it on a wrong data, right? So this age can't be null. It should have some value, right? There can be some duplicates. We need to clean up that duplicates, and we may not need all these columns. If for example, embarked is something I'm not able to remember now, but I don't know right now. If I don't understand what this is, I don't really care why this specific column. I can completely remove this column when I'm training. Maybe even the cabin number, I don't know what I can do with this cabin number. I can also remove this cabin number. I can have a subset of this data, whatever I'm going to use for the training, and only use that properties for training, so that I can have better results, right? Two reasons. One is the clean data can yield better results, and second thing is also the compute power, right? So right now we are only seeing a data set with 891 records, but in real time the data would be in billions, right? So when you see data in billions, and even if you remove a single column, it can increase your computation and the time that it needs for training the data set, training the model with your data set, right? So if you see all these LLMs that you're training on different billions of parameters, uh, they are trained on GPUs and even bigger supercomputers, right? So and for training that, it's taking years of time. So if you can reduce the data, if you can optimize the data and clean the data, it will increase your efficiency by, like as research says, it can increase your efficiency by 60 to 70% approximately if you use the proper clean data, right? So let's go to our Jupyter notebook and start playing with this data, right? Hope things are clear so far. If you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand and interrupt me. I'll answer the question, right? So this is the I think we've explained this. And one more thing, yeah. So let's see what embarked is. Uh, Queen stop back port of, oh, okay. Yeah, so I think in which port they like onboard like boarded, I guess. So if you see whenever you download data from this known sources like Kaggle or Hugging Face or whatever, right? So they will have proper documentation of what the data is, what each property is, the definition of it, what values it contains, right? All of this data is properly documented. Even if you look at survival, as discussed, zero is no and one is yes, right? So that's what embark means. And he even in the variables of p class, so when they say one it's upper class, second is middle class, and third is lower class, right? They have explained each and every property. Yeah, if you see this sib-sp, the dataset contains the family relationship in this way. Sibling stands for brother, sister, stepbrother, and stepsister. Spouse is like whether it's husband or wife. So I was going through this document today morning, so that's when I got to know what each property is. If I don't have this details anywhere, I just think that's some junk column and I would remove it when I'm training the model, right? So yeah, so this is the model. Let's go into our Anaconda Jupyter notebook. So for those who missed the last session, we are using Anaconda for running our Python code base via Anaconda and Jupyter notebook. Because that's the easiest way to install Python in your machine, and also to break down your program into bits and pieces and execute mainly when you are learning stuff, right? So now I'm in this folder where I have inside the downloads folder, I'm in Titanic folder, right? Let me just start with one Python 3 notebook. So in this, first thing that we are going to do is we will be using a library called pandas. So let me have it. I have the pandas already. Let me just get this here. So what is this pandas library? Pandas library we are using for like doing operations on top of data, whether it can be a text data or a tabular format data. It has a lot of pre-built methods like clearing of duplicate records or filling the empty records. There are a lot of inbuilt methods so that you don't have to write all those implementations and build it from scratch. Instead, you can use the model libraries, library methods that were already there in pandas, right? So for importing pandas, so we'll just say import pandas as pd. Again, as stands is used for aliasing. Instead of calling pandas every time as pandas, we are just simplifying that and calling it as pd. So whenever you want to call pandas next, you will just say pd dot whatever you want after that, right? So let's execute this. Now pandas library is imported. So then the next one is to um, set the maximum columns count. So pandas have some maximum count for each property. Like say for tables, it will only show maximum of 10 to 15 records. Maybe for text, it will show these many lines, right? We have some predefined numbers. In our case, I don't want any of those predefined numbers. So what I'll do is I'll say set option display max columns. I don't want any predefined rule for the maximum number of columns. I'll just set it to null so that it will display all the uh, rows and columns whenever I print something, right? So now uh, let me just read the data first. So let me just read the data as data equal to pd dot. So we have a method in pandas called read csv. So we are using csv files. So I'll say read csv as what is the csv file name? I think it's train dot csv. Is it the correct name? Train.csv, that's correct. So let's also read the test data, just uh, test data equal to pd dot read csv test dot csv, right? Now, if you remember, our training data is having close to 891 records, and testing data is having close to 400 or 300 records. I don't remember. Let's quickly see that, right? So let's print. For printing something in Python, we'll just use print, and we'll say data dot info, which will give you the whole information, like what kind of how many rows we have, how many headers or the columns we have, what is the data type of each column, right? And how many rows are empty and how many rows are full. All of this data we can get with this simple command of data.info. So let me just execute this. So now you see this. We have these columns like passenger, server, pname, name, sex, age, all of these columns, whatever we just gone through. And in that, these many rows were not null. So we have total of 891. So if you see till 6, everything is full. But age, we have only 714 records, which means all the others are null or maybe have I think it's null, and rest all are full again, and then again we saw a lot of columns, a lot of rows for cabin are empty, right? So, and we can also see the type of each column. Passenger id is an integer, age is a float, siblings is an integer, right? So there is some property for each, but if you see 6, it says it's an object and all the 891 records are full. Object or a string, whatever. So reading a string or comparing it, comparing every time with a string would be little hard, right? However, what if we convert this into a float? Maybe it can be a male or a female as per the data, right? So maybe male can be 0 or female can be 1, something like that, right? So if we transform the data to, why are we doing that? So to make the data more readable for the model, so that the computation becomes much more simple. Instead of, whenever if you want to compare the sex of a person to a string character, would be a more costly operation when comparing with a boolean variable, right? So let's simply convert this to boolean when in the process of cleaning up, right? So before that, and also one more thing that we can do, if you see this data, so we have only 714 records. I don't want this empty records because age is a very critical property for me, and I want some age to be there. If it is null, I want to imagine some age and put some age in that, in this free columns. So what age can we put? We can simply put the median. Median is nothing but mid value of the of all the ages that we have in the list of this 891 passengers, right? So for that, what we do is simply add, first let's fill all the remaining empty rows uh, for age. So for that, what we'll do is data of, before this, let's also clarify what we have in the test data. So data test data dot info, right? So we see we have close to 418 records. Again, in this also we have we only have 332 records filled for age, and we have a lot of free spaces in cabin because we don't know the details, the cabin details of all the passengers, right? So now let's we are not going to do anything with the test data. I am just displaying the data information so that you understand what data is there in each data set, right? So let me add a new box, and let's see. And also there is a property called head. So we can see what data is there in each property. When we say data.head, it will actually give you the top 5 records. So let's see if that works. Data.head. Mm, See this? We get the details of the first 5 passengers because it is not able to fit in all the columns in a single row. It actually is did that in 3 different forms, right? So now we get the details of the first 5 passengers. So okay, now let's do the first activity. Our first activity is to fill the empty spaces in age. So for that, what we'll do is data of age equal to data of age dot fill ny data of age dot median, right? So what are we doing here? So we are filenya is a method in our pandas library. What will this do? This will fill all the uh, r- rows where the data for the age column is empty. What are we filling it with? We are filling it with the median value. I've already did that. I think the median value is somewhere around 25 or 29, 28 or something, I guess. Let's also see what is there in that. Let's first execute this. Let's fill the values. I think this is filled now. Let's quickly see what is the value of this median. So let me quickly print that. So yeah, it's 28. So it, which means it will fill whatever is empty. It will assume the age of that person is 28, and it will fill it. So now let's go back and see what is the info, which means now, sorry, it's data info, which means now that we filled everything, every empty space in age. So this 714 should become 891 now, right? So let's see if that's the case. Right. So see now the age is now, all the blank spaces are filled now. So now age became everything is full, right? So that's good. So next, as we discussed, let's simplify this. What is this? 6, which is currently an object. Let's make it either 0 or 1. So we have a property called map. So I think map is a common property even when I use in C sharp. We have a similar property called map. So how to use that? Same again, data of 6 equal to data of dot map. We'll say male as 0 and female as 1. So I'll say male is 0 and female is 1. Just give me a second. So okay, so we have this, and let me quickly run this. Yes, so now the mapping is done. It will now be converted to zeros and ones. Let's print the info one more time. Um, so let's see. Uh, Now if you see this age now, till now sex is an object, but now it is a integer, right? So which is good. um, Now that it is done, so we also see few empty spaces in embarked. I don't want this empty ones, which are like there are two empty ones. I also want this specific property in the x-axis when I'm calculating whether that person is survived or not, because I want to know from where this person is boarded from. So for clearing that up, I have a property called as a drop NA, which will remove the empty space, like rows which are empty for this specific property, right? Let me just do that quickly. So for that, what I'll do is data equal to data dot drop NA subset equal to embarked. Okay, so let's run this quickly. So with this, ideally those two records should be dropped. Now let's again go and get the info of the data set. So let's print data.info. So let me paste this, run this. Now see, till now we have 891 records for every property. Now that we've removed that property, those two records which are empty, now all the properties become 889, right? So which is good. So now the last thing that I wanted to do is uh, transform age and fair. Again, why are we doing this? So right now, if you look at the data, let me just quickly pull the data on the screen. So if you look at the age and fair, so right now age is 22 and that person paid, like say this guy, Harris paid, who is of age 22, paid 7.25 dollars, right? A person with age 28 paid $71, right? So we have different set of values, and I actually don't want to know what these values are. Instead, maybe if I can understand the min and max value of this age. So if I can quickly see here, the min value that I can figure out in this list is 22, I guess. Not 22, actually 4 maybe. Sorry, 2. I think 2 is the min value, and the max value in this visible data set is 66, right? So min is 2 and max is 66. If I can put the min value as 0 and the max value as 1, right? And then like if 0 is 2, uh, then and 66 is 1, then what would be 33? 33, not 33, yeah, 34. 34 would be something around 0.5, right? If you can make a simple basic math, right? Again, I'm repeating it. So if value 2 can become 0 and value 66 can become 1, 0.5 would be somewhere around 33 or 34, right? So in a similar way, if I can split this data, convert this data between 0 and 1 in a and the same fraction data would also be applied on fair, then it becomes really easy for us to compute and do the graphing in the xy axis for understanding whether that person survived in the Titanic crash or not, right? So we are not going to do all this manually. We have a method called min-max scaler. So we are going to use that, and for using that min-max scaler, we need to use the scikit-learn library that we used in our last previous session, right? So let me just quickly import that. So I'll quickly say from sklearn dot preprocessing import min-max scaler, right? So that's imported. Now I'll say scalar equal to min max scalar, right? So let me run this also. This is also done. So then the next one would be to fit in both age and fair to this scalar function, right? So for that, what we'll do is data of age and fair equal to scalar dot fit. The method for fitting it is, it's called fit transform. So fit transform data of, let me just copy paste this. Right now the data is fit using this, right? So then for if you want to train the data and split the data now if you want, but in our case it's not needed, but just that Kaggle is giving us all this information of training data set and the testing data set. We are not doing the splitting part, but in case if we don't have the test data set, what you usually do is from sklearn again, sklearn will import train test split, right? And then we'll say x would be on the x-axis. I'll put off data of p class 6 age fair, and also the family size. I think we haven't calculated the family size. First, let me calculate the family size. I also need the family size when to analyze whether that person is has survived or not. So you, as mentioned in the data, let me just bring it up again. So the family size can be calculated using these two properties, CBSP and PARCH. CBSP stands for sibling and spouse, PARCH stands for parent and child, right? So let's get that first. So for that, what we'll do is um, data will, we are creating a new property which is not there. Instead of calculating this every time, we'll have a property called as family size, which will help us easily understand the count of the family count uh, whenever we see the data, right? So okay, y plus 1. So, siblings and spouse and parent and child, plus 1 is the count of the person. So, when we ask for the family size, if it's a family of 4 members, then like it will be like maybe one sibling and one spouse, two parents, and you including it will be like 4 plus 1, it's 5, right? So, that would be the family size. So, let me just execute this and add this new property of family size in the x axis. And then on y-axis, we can have data of survived, right? So let's do this. Let's run this. This doesn't have any errors, which means it's successful, right? So then what we'll do is we categorize that into x train, y train, x test, and y test. So for that, what we do is x underscore train, x underscore test, y underscore train, y underscore test equal to. So we already imported this train test split from skikit. So we are going to use that train test split x comma y comma. Let's set the text test size, which is equal to 20%. For that, the denotion is 0.2. And then the random state, as usual, I'll give it as 42. Again, I think I've explained what random state is in the last session. Random state is for like getting, I mean, like it's basically you can set the random state to any integer, but if you use the same random size, you have higher chances of getting a similar data set result every time when you give the same random size, right? So if you use a different random size next time when you're splitting the data, then the training data and the test data would be completely different from what you see now, right? So this is done. So now that we have the train data and test data, now as you all know, we'll now import maybe random forest algorithm or any other supervised learning algorithm and train the data on that specific algorithm. And then once you have the train results, you use the train results for testing it. And once you test it, you do some math and get the accuracy percentage, right? That's what we do next. But this session is not for that. We are mainly focusing on cleaning the data in this session, which we have already done. So what did we do so far? First thing is we have filled everything which have empty data in the age column, right? Previously we were having close to 200 plus records which are empty. We filled it with the median value, and after that, what did we do? We cleared these two records where this embarked value is null, so that we can have it in the x-axis. And then what we do? We also converted this object to integer. So we wanted to convert so we converted the male and female as zeros and ones so that it's easy for computation. And the last thing we did is age and the fair scaling. So we converted the age and fair in a range of 0 to 1, so that again the computation becomes easy. So these are the few cleanups that we did. So now the data is clean. So just to see the top 5 records, let's execute the head command. So that's print data.head. So copy this and execute this. So now if you see what all changes have we done? Survived, we did not change anything. Plea class, we haven't changed anything. Name, we did not change anything. Now you see the six. Previously it was male and female. Let me see this one. See, previously before cleanup it is male and female. Now it's changed to zeros and ones, right? And then age. Now you see the age between 0 and 1. Either you see the mean value as 0 and the max value of 1. You see it's 0.2, 0.4, 0.3, something like that. But previously the age is like proper age 22, 38, 36, whatever is the right values, right? And then you also see fair. Fair is also converted to a range of 0 to 1 using the min max scaling. So you can see this here 0.1, 0.0, 0.1, right? So but in the previous data you can clearly see a different fair here, right? And what else did we change? I think these are the visible changes. Another change that we did is we removed two rows which where we don't have the boarding station, right? So this is how you clean up the data, and this is case to case, right? First thing what you need to do is whenever you see the data, if you're taking the data from these sources like Kaggle or Hugging Face or any other publicly available source, they mostly give you the details of the content, like the data type, what each property means, each column means, right? They'll provide you all those details. But in case if you are doing in a professional enterprise ecosystem, what you may need to do is, if you are an AI engineer, say your software engineer knows where this data is getting pulled from. So you need to get in touch with your stakeholder or your internal software engineers and understand what each column means, what is the importance of each column, and then you need to understand your problem statement and figure out which columns are needed for your problem statement, eliminate all the columns that are not needed, and then once you eliminate all the columns, in the columns that you need, you make sure there are no duplicates. So here, for removing the duplicates, the simple thing is, what you can do is just data dot, I think, remove underscore duplicates is some method. You, once you do that, if there are any columns for the same, like say if you see another row for this guy Harris with the same data, it will automatically remove that row, right? Remove the duplicates, see the columns where you need the data for sure, see how you can fill that data, right? And see if you can simplify few of the columns, maybe like how we did for sex or age or fair, right? So these are few things that you can do when you are cleaning up. So there is one amazing example that I just found on internet for another data set. On This data set is for what is this? This is for flights for the year 2015. So I'll share this link as well. So if you see this is the GitHub repository for that. So what this person is doing is, in this repository they are getting the data of the flights, understanding what columns are there, removing the unnecessary columns, right? And also trying to do a pictographical representation or a graphical representation of the data to understand the data better, right? So once that is done, they've cleaned up a few rows where the delay reasons are empty, right? They've done a lot of things. It's a very big document. If you are interested to know more about what other things we can do as part of a cleaning, data cleaning, you can just refer to this document. I'll share that in our MD files in day 3 repository, right? So yeah, I think that's all I have for today's session on cleanup. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Let me stop sharing.
Great.
Sorry. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Aditya. That was very insightful. Again, folks, whatever steps Aditya said, it's all documented in our repo. We'll just make the repo live once the session is done, right? So you can take a look at it. We have also created a skeleton of what he had done, right? So we'll make it alive, right? Yeah. Karthik says, amazing session, guys. Yeah, thank you, Karthik. Thanks for that. Uh, yeah.
Thanks, Karthik. We are still not done. We
I
still
will
have
give
lot
the
of other
maybe in the
topics to
end,
converse.
just to give you a background about Azure AI services. So we will give you some. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll take another 15 minutes or something max, right? So
Yeah.
I'm just sharing my
So
screen.
before
Yeah,
that, Ajay, so
yeah.
guys, if you look at the agenda, you might have seen Azure OpenAI as part of day 3 agenda, but we are deviating a little from the agenda. The reason is we don't want you to confuse you with all this OpenAI and this new terminology. Instead, we want to first start with the basics of Azure before even going into Azure, what Azure OpenAI is. So to make it very simple, for today, we are using Pandas library and simple Python for cleaning up the data. But in the next coming sessions, we are going to start using Azure OpenAI. And before doing that, we'll now introduce you to Azure, and I'll explain you how you can create your own Azure account, how you can set up, and what you can do with your Azure profiles. We'll talk more about that in the next few minutes. Over to you, Ajay.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just sharing my screen. I think you're on mute.
Hey, sorry, I was speaking on mute. So I'll share you this complete code, whatever I've explained now. I'll share you that in our day 3 repository. You'll get it in next few minutes mostly.
Yeah, I'm just pinging Guinea to share my screen. Maybe she's not around. But I think what
Again, I'm
we'll
speaking
do.
on mute.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe you can just ping her. So meanwhile, I'll just explain, right, folks. So see, the whole Azure AI services is basically a portfolio of AI capabilities which are there to have these automation of these workloads, for example, language vision or intelligent search or content generation and much more, right? So Azure has created multiple services, and these services are all wrapped under the umbrella of Azure AI services, right? I'll show that once we get the screen share. So within, just to give a highlight about what Azure is, right? So maybe just how many of you already are using Azure? How many of you have used Azure? Any info around that? I mean, have you guys used it Azure before? Heard of it? Used AWS or any other cloud? How's your touch with cloud platforms? Anyone? I know Karthik has used AWS. How about Azure?
So you can just say yes or no in the comments, maybe. That
Yeah,
would help us understand if you're familiar. If everyone is familiar with Azure, we can just skip this
we can
introduction to
directly
Azure.
go into the AI services,
Azure
right?
OpenAI, correct, correct,
Yeah,
correct.
yet to learn Azure. Okay, fine. Yeah, see, I think I'll cover the basics, right, Karthik. So similar to how you have accounts, so in Microsoft Azure, there is something called a subscription, right? So let's say you create an account, you have a subscription. Now the subscription is a universal thing for your account. Now within subscription, you have multiple regions, right? You can create a resource group. So in Azure, there is something called resource group. You create a resource group. That resource group stays in a particular, you can have like multiple resources, right, within that particular resource group. And you, whenever you create these resources, you create these in a specific region, right? So for example, I'm creating a Azure OpenAI service. I'll create this into a particular region, right? So that's how these resources are tagged. And to create a resource, you need a resource group, right? That's why the resource group, and think of resource group like a logical separation, right, or logical grouping. Unlike AWS or other cloud, you may not have resource group, but then here we have a concept of resource group where you just group multiple resources into one particular logical entity, where you can like maybe assign accesses, or maybe you can delete them together, or do some specific actions on top of that resource group, right? So that's the concept of a resource group in Azure, right? And same way, when you are looking at the infrastructure, there are different data centers, different regions, right? All these are like segregated, right, based on the geography. If you are in India, you want to try a different, you want to try a India data center, there are a couple of data centers in India. You can select these, right, India Central and India West, I think. So you can select these, right? And depending on your region pair, there are paired regions, right? You can have a, high availability region. Your primary region could be one region, the other one could be a disaster recovery region, right? That's how you can split your resources in your Azure subscription, right? And again, Azure AI services is a root umbrella of services. Within it, there are different sources. For example, there is something called as Azure OpenAI service, where the whole GPT-4 model has been, can be hosted. You can create a different model. Let's say I'll show you, like I have created a GPT-3 turbo model. If let's say you want to have a different model hosted, you can host that model, right? And it uses the OpenAI library, right? So you will be using the Azure platform, and you will be using the OpenAI library to connect to that particular service. So when let's say you're connecting from your external system, maybe local system, or maybe from a different service, you can use this OpenAI service and then connect to that particular service, right? There is also something called as Azure AI Search. Azure AI Search is a vector search. I mean, you can use Azure AI Search to dump data into it, and then you can use the Azure AI Search APIs to go and search from that particular system, right? That's again one service. There is one for AI speech. You can load some audio, and then you can just get that converted into text. There is also immersive reader. It can go and read your text, right? There is a AI translator as well. It can translate from one language to another. There is also AI language service, right? It can translate from one language to another. When you are like writing messages, it can auto translate that, right? Same way, there are AI vision service, intelligence services. There are multiple other services. Again, it's growing as we speak, right? I think I got my control. Thank you Vigini for sharing, right? So the ones which I just explained is here. Let me show you whatever I just mentioned, right? So this is how my Azure console or the portal looks like, right? So if you've used AWS, we call it console. In Azure, we call this the portal. Now you can see a lot of services. There are a lot of options which are there here. Specifically for AI specific workloads, there are two dedicated things, Azure AI Services and Azure AI Studio, right? We will talk about Azure AI Services first. When I go to Azure AI Services, it lists me different options, right? I mean, there are so many other options. The ones which I just explained, Azure OpenAI, there is a AI search, there is computer vision, there is face API, custom vision, speech translator, language service. So you can use these services to do what Aditya showed, right? I mean, instead of manually going and using these libraries, you can use these existing services within the Azure cloud platform, right? It helps you in reducing a lot of your code, and that's where Azure has automated a lot of things, so you can just leverage this service and then start using it. Of course, you will be getting charged based on how you use it, right? That's how it works, right? um, so these are the different services. Now if I want to create a OpenAI library, I can go and like create an account here, and then I can start using it, right? For example, I had created one. If I go to Azure OpenAI, I created something called as TP test, right? I created it in the East US region, and there will be a custom resource group. If you look at it, there will be a resource group on which this was created. So this is the resource group. So I called it as OpenAI TP. And if I go to the resource group, see here, you can do a lot of things on the resource group. It's tied up to a subscription and everything. And on that resource group, I have this particular resource only. If I create more of my AI services or any other service in this resource group, it all will be listed here. Right now, I have only one resource, which is nothing but the Azure OpenAI resource. Now, if I go into this, I'll have option to go to something called as Azure AI Foundry portal. Earlier, this was called as Azure AI Studio. Right now, it has been folded into a new concept of Azure AI Foundry, where all the AI Studio and the tools are getting folded into this. Right. So I'm here. Once I click on the AI Foundry, it opens a different link. Right. So here again, this is like a playground. You can go and do a lot of things in this. For example, I already had deployed a model here. That's why it is showing the GPT-3 turbo model. If you see here, I already did that. If I go to deployments, I can see that. Right. If you want to deploy a new model, you can do that. You can just create a base model. You can fine tune it. So whatever Aditya showed, right, you can just deploy an base model, and then using that model, you can do some stuff on that, on top of that model as well. Right. And again, if you want to quickly do some prompt checks, right, if you want to use a model what you had deployed and you want to check the prompts, you can do that. You don't have to create any UI as such. You can quickly use that model and then do prompting like how you do with Copilot. You can do that here, right? There are other options here as well. I don't want to go into each and every one of them, but do check that out. There is something called model catalog where you can look at the different models which are available, which you can deploy, right? If you don't know any model, just pick and choose one from here, right? So these are like O1 model is one of the newest models, right? GPT-4o you would have heard. GPT-3 is a little bit old model. There are tons of models here, right? You can search and then you can find get them, right? Likewise, again, there are different tools within this Foundry as well, which you can use to fine tune models, run some batch jobs, etc., right? Which you want to do. Also, finally, if you want to understand what is the quota usage which you are using for this particular model, you can go to the quota and you can understand how much limit have you used or consumed, right? That's another critical thing in the Azure AI model or any chat GPT or any kind of a platform, right? Where we talk about tokens per minute and things like that. You can use this quota to understand how much of this you have consumed, right? So that's there. This is a vector store. This is where you can store your data and then use it again, right? So we'll talk about these more once we start doing these hands-on. But at a high level, Azure AI services are set of AI services which you can leverage for automating our day-to-day automation job, whatever we just saw with respect to data cleaning and things like that. We can leverage Azure services to make it much simpler than writing a lot of code. And Azure AI Foundry is where you can deploy your models, train them, do custom integrations. It solves a lot of our day-to-day problem. It makes it simple for us to test the models which we have created, right? So that's about the Azure AI services in general, right? Any again, any question, do post it to us. We will be able to answer it. And as and when we progress through these sessions, we will talk more about Azure AI services, and then we'll start using Azure AI from the next sessions. Yeah,
Cool.
I think that's all
Thanks,
we had.
Ajay.
Anything else, Aditya, you want to cover? I think the
Yeah,
assignment, we
one.
still have the assignment to cover, right? Yeah.
I just want to talk about the assignment, and even
Yeah.
before going to the assignment, let me quickly present my screen.
Yeah. Let me stop
Um,
share.
Let me know once you can see my screen.
Yeah.
So, how can we? So, we want you to. It's not just for verbal stuff. So, we want you to uh, start using Azure and start using Azure AI services, right? So for that, first thing you need to do is you need to have your own Azure account. So if you are a student, it will be it's Microsoft provides a lot of benefits for you. So what you can simply do is go to azure.microsoft.com. I'll share you this link, free students, and you can just start your journey here. You can just click on start free, and it will ask you for some details like your college email ID or your ID card or whatever. And without the need of credit card, you can create your student account. In case if you are not a student, what you can simply do is again go and sign up for Azure. You'll get some 100 or 200 Azure free credits, but the only difference is you need to provide your credit card. Nothing will be debited. You will be hardly debited 1 rupee or 2 rupees, but that will be also returned back to you, but you only be charged if you consume more than that 100 or 200 free credits, right? So that's one way to get started on Azure. And what do you want to do on Azure? Just open the portal. Portal.azure.com is a landing page. So go there, just see what all services are there. Just play around with the portal, and let us know in case if you are facing any challenges setting up your account. We'll be happy to assist you. Okay, and then the next one is if you have any questions, there is also a link for that. There are frequently asked questions on Azure Education Hub. We'll also share you the link. Most of your questions can be answered here itself. But in case if it is not answered here, but you are still facing some issue, we'll be able to help you there, right? And another thing, this is not part of Azure, but I highly recommend if you're a student, please go and use this GitHub Student Developer Pack. With this, you will get a lot of extra features on GitHub, and also you will also get a free GitHub Copilot. GitHub Copilot is a VS Code and all the IDEs extension where it can be a paid programmer for you when you are writing your code, and it will help you a lot in terms of productivity and in terms of learning new stuff. And I came to a stage where I can't code now without using GitHub Copilot. So that's how I'm addicted to GitHub Copilot. But as a early developers, this will be really helpful for learning things really quick, instead of going to your browser every time you want to find something, right? So this is one more thing, and another thing is students also get free Office products. So you can find the details here in this link, Microsoft.com Education Products Office. I'll also share you this link. If you want to start using Office products, you can start from here, right? So these are the few benefits that Microsoft provides for students. And if you have any questions on this, you can also ask this in the discussions forum, and we are happy to support you here. And coming to the assignment, so we haven't documented the assignment yet, so I'm still writing it. I was a little busy today with the office work, so couldn't complete on time. Sorry for that. But today's assignment is simple. So what we want you to do is we want you to spend time on creating your Azure account using these links that we provide. That's the first activity. And second activity would be go to any platform, maybe Kaggle or Hugging Face or anything. Find a data set, any data set, not this Titanic data set, because we have already seen this Titanic data set. See some other data set, and document what your findings are. Document, maybe even if you don't know how to clean the data yet, just document what cleaning can be applied on top of it, or what kind of problem statements that you can think of. I'll format this problem statement in a proper MD file, and also will give you a template for sending the submissions. So you'll be getting that in next 1 or 2 hours, and maybe once you wake up tomorrow morning, you can see that in our day 3 GitHub repository, right? So and the deadline for completing this assignment would be next Thursday, which is 19th of December, right? So 19th December, 11:59 p.m. IST. So on 20th, we'll start evaluating whatever comes till then, and on 20th or 21st we'll announce the winners for week 2, right? That's going to be the pattern for the next 2 weeks, right? Yeah, that's all for today. Ajay, do you have anything else?
No, I think we are good, Aditya. So I think we
Okay,
can regroup tomorrow, folks. So we'll be talking about the deep learning basics. Again, we will go through theoretical part in the front, and then again we'll do some hands-on. Right? We'll try to do Azure AI. Like we said, if you have any queries, do post it in the discussion forum. We'll be able to come back to you to answer that. Yeah.
cool. Yep. Thank you so much, Ajay. And guys, hope you enjoyed the session, and
Yep. Thank you,
hope to
Aditya.
see you
We'll
in
see you again tomorrow, folks.
see you again tomorrow, right? Thank you. Kini, we can close this.
Yep. Thank you, folks. Have a good Friday.
Yep. Have a good evening. Bye.